Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. So the notification just went out, so I'm going to give everybody just a moment to come into the room. Hopefully everybody is doing well, and happy Tuesday. All right, y'all. So let me know as you're coming into the room. I think my computer goes a little slow. Okay. Hey, Helena. Hey, Political Pug. Hey, Raymond. Hey, Black Introvert. So I'm just getting in the room, Raymond. And so starting next week, you guys, I am going back to my regular time. For Tuesdays, I've been lagging about 30 to 45 minutes here. But starting next week, I am going back to my regular time. So shout out to everybody and thank y'all for being patient through this time. But like I said, next week, not only am I going back to my regular time, which will be around 7:30 Central, I think that's 8:30 Eastern. Also, I am going to start back with my regular uploads. So 3 to possibly more videos a week. I'm really going to be getting those videos up for you guys. Just had a couple of changes here recently, but I am getting back on that starting next week. Also, I would like to take this time to thank my patrons for supporting me. I appreciate you guys so much. So for supporting these Tuesday shows. A special shout out to my VIP patrons, Ray and Michael Ray. Also, I am going to start uploading more to my Patreon starting next week as well. I'm going to be doing a lot more uploading there, hopefully weekly as well. So go ahead and become a member over there. Get subscribed. You guys will not only be able to see some of the behind the scenes content of stuff that I have going on, like these different things that I'm attending and going to be attending over the next couple of months, but also some extra content that'll be dedicated to my patrons over there. And yeah, thank you also to everybody that has bought a t-shirt. So far, the Entertainers Are Not Leaders t-shirts. Make sure if you have not gotten one, make sure you go ahead and click the link in my bio to get one. Also, make sure y'all are sending me pictures in the shirts. I know some of y'all, like Helena, y'all are super chill. Don't post pictures. I get it. But if y'all don't mind sending me a picture in your t-shirt, I would greatly appreciate it. So, y'all, I have an announcement to make. Helena said I wore mine the other day and I got super side-eye. Let me tell y'all something about this shirt. That shirt is such a conversation starter because it's really going to mess with a lot of people's head for the very reason that we are so accustomed and our culture has created this buffer class of celebrities where we put them on this pedestal just because they can sing well or they're talented or they can play a sport or whatever the case may be. It's a conversation starter. It's controversial. Some people aren't going to get it. Be prepared for that. But there's messaging in that. My biggest thing is, y'all know I completely believe in the freedom of speech, regardless of if I agree with you or not. I believe in your right to say it. Now, I can't personally be responsible for the consequences that you may endure because of what you say. However, I support your right to say it. And so I don't want people, because I've had some people, and like I said, it's controversial. Okay. Some people are so used to depending on celebrities, looking to them for what's okay, what's passable, what's trending, what's important, that they can't even find it in themselves to lean on their own decisions, understandings, learnings, whatever the case may be. I find it particularly odd. This just really blows me for a loop. It's oftentimes men that are giving me the hardest grief about the freaking shirt. And I'm like, out of all people, maybe that's sexist of me. I don't know. Maybe that's sexist of me to assume that most grown men would be more likely to lead themselves than depending on people they see on TV that you don't even freaking know. And that's not to take away anybody's accomplishments, what they do well, how they've impacted their community. But something I really believe over here is that we have the same ability to impact our communities on our scale. Like, you're literally just as important. You might not have the freaking screen time as, I don't know, like a LeBron James or somebody, but what, like, you can't follow some of those same, like, that's just weird to me to put the onus on celebrities. You can literally do the same thing these people are doing within your budget, within your community, to fit your lifestyle. Like, that just makes sense to me. I've told y'all time and time again, I literally don't get on here and talk about anything that I am not actively doing or working my way towards. Like, it's real. And a lot of y'all are freaking going to be on this journey with me. Like, I just saw something on Twitter earlier today. Let me read it to y'all. I think I bookmarked it. Did I not bookmark it? Oh man, I hate when it happens. Oh, I think I liked it. Hold on. But every single thing that I like talked to y'all about, like, we are literally on a mission, and some people are going to be left behind in the matrix. Like, I'm telling y'all. So somebody on Twitter said, I am not my ancestor / someone whose ancestors could hunt, farm, build, heal, and fight. So basically it's this little I am not my ancestors thing that's been going on. You know, I guess this catchy phrase that's supposed to be on Twitter, whatever the case. A lot of people say, and honestly, that's super annoying to me. Like, I've told y'all, I've sat down and had the conversations with my aunt and uncles about how my family was the first family. My mom's parents was the first family to integrate their neighborhood. Even my parents, my aunts and uncles, being able to tell me about how when integration was first happening and like all the things they had to do to even just deal with that. And I'm like, how dare I try to even compare myself to that? But anyway, so this tweet says, someone whose ancestors could hunt, farm, build, heal, and fight. When I tell y'all, I am literally trying to learn everything to put myself in a position where I can be as completely independent from the freaking government as possible, right? So tonight we're going to talk about how the Minneapolis City Council is going on to basically vote to abolish the police. And I'm going to get into this in a minute, but I'm like, some of y'all are really putting the freaking cart before the horse. I think that's how they say it goes, right? Ultimately, I am not ultimately against defunding the police, right? Possibly even abolishing the police. However, there are a lot of conversations and nuances that is not happening. And I'm at this point with the way everything is going on, I'm starting to feel like it's being forced by people outside of these actual communities, which just doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, yes, I do think that people can be just as helpful to their respective communities by doing some freaking work. All right. Whether that is to benefit you on a personal level, benefit your immediate family, or even benefit your community. And those things add up and they help, right? Just imagine having a team in your neighborhood of people that are trained in security detail. You have first responders in your freaking neighborhood. Why are these conversations not happening at the same time as these abolish the police conversations? That doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, we'll get back to that. So I done ran off on a tangent and I didn't even make my announcement. So anyway, so you guys, I have been invited to speak at the Libertarian National Convention on a panel. This is going to be, I think, next week. So I have been invited to speak on a panel about basically about the 2A, what we see happening right now with I don't even know, but it's going to cover a lot of topics, and particularly how some of these things that we're seeing are affecting the Black community, right? And so I will be there. This is going to be in Orlando, Florida. And so, y'all, we're still kind of watching the news, trying to see like what's what with all the lockdowns and everything like that. But as far as I can tell right now, it's still on for next week. So I'm super duper duper. Hey, Kim. Hey, Tom. I'm super duper excited about that, y'all. And so this is a good time as ever. And I have some other events, hopefully, that are going to be coming up this year as well. Also, depending on, everything with COVID and things like that. So let's help get the message out. Thank y'all for everybody that's been supporting me so far. My platform is expanding, and y'all are going to continue to see me grow over the next year, especially, like I said, starting next week when I get back on my regular rotation and kind of pick things up a little bit. So yeah, y'all, that's my announcement. So hopefully I'll get some good content to share with you guys after that, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be some very dynamic voices on that panel. I was invited to speak on a panel by Antonia Okafor. So I'm looking forward to that. Dev is also going to be on a panel from Trenchwork Chronicles. Some of you may remember I interviewed him in Virginia. He was the guy that was telling me about how I think he said he was in Chicago, where he basically had to use a firearm to save his life. Okay, this is a young Black man. These are stories that we need to be talking about and hearing more. And I'm going to do my part to make sure that I'm sharing these stories as well. And then Edgar from Guns for Everyone. Hank Strange is going to be on there. And I think a couple of other people. So it's going to be a good panel. And I'm really looking forward to it, y'all. But all right, so let's go ahead and jump into some of tonight's topics. So Helena J said, are they streaming it? I'm not even sure. I definitely need to find out now, though, because you guys are asking. I don't know if Kim missed it. I basically said that I've been invited to speak on a panel about the 2A and how it affects or can help basically the Black community, and at the Libertarian National Convention, which is going to be next week for people just coming in the room. So I'm super excited about that. But all right, y'all. So as y'all notice, it is a lot going on. It's just a lot going on in the media right now. it's so much so going on that I don't even know if I have to make the case, or going forward will have to make the case the same for people getting armed and getting trained. I think the media inadvertently is doing its own job of piquing people's curiosities. That was a tongue twister. And really allowing people to see how it's no better time than now. There's so much going on. We see the protests, we see the riots, we see a lot of people, millions of people out of work right now. There is this perfect storm being created. And it's just really, it's really unfortunate. There are a lot of people caught up in the matrix. And so when I say that, what I literally mean is people are being caught up in an agenda that is not theirs. People are being twisted and turned by things that are being used to distract and divert their attention. When I say agendas that are not theirs, you recently have Black Lives Matter coming out. I think this is like one of the top organizers, founders on national TV, and goes on to say, oh yeah, this was really a LGBT movement from the very beginning anyway. That's what it really was about, bringing light to trans issues, right? And don't get me wrong, I believe in freedom, right? If you want to make a group to highlight anything, be my guest. I am not the one to stop you. However, it's really time out for the deceitfulness. There's a lot of deceitfulness happening, and people are being masked and swept into agendas that are not theirs, right? You literally had people asking for police officers to be held responsible for negligence, to be held responsible for bias, to be held responsible for deaths of unarmed people. Yet, somehow, we are being swept away into knocking over statues. We are being swept away into changing voice actors. We are being swept away into all kind of things that ultimately do not enhance the quality of life, nor do they address the initial thing that people were asking for from the very beginning, right? So weeks ago, when a protest first started, I told people that if you did not control this narrative, it will be swept away. Now we have a Minneapolis City Council that is moving forward to abolish the police force, when we know these people are most likely to have a private detail. See, every single thing the politicians, some of y'all not ready for this, because I know some of y'all, the politicians in your heads, they're your best friends. I know these blue chicks in your heads, they're your best friends, they're your family. You think they care for you, right? I don't know how I can make it plain that when these people are not, and this is why they say local politics is important, right? Because when these people are not living in the same communities, their children are not going to schools with your children, right? They are not depending on the same safety measures that you are. Your fight and what you guys need as far as quality of life is not the freaking same, okay? A lot of these politicians have a private security detail. They live behind gated communities. They continuously have people to protect them. and you have what, right? Now, people watching, because I know I have a lot of Second Amendment supporters, may say, oh, I have a gun, I have this certain training. Okay, what about all the people in the inner cities that don't have this? And this is why I said early on in the show, a lot of these people that are just jumping on the, oh, abolish the police force, defund the police force bandwagon, are putting a freaking cart before the horse, right? For example, for people to even say defund the police force and put that money here. So take the money from the police force and put it right into education. I can tell you haven't worked in education. I can tell you haven't worked in school systems, because you don't know that it takes years. It can take years from putting a program into the schools, from changing, even trying to change or shift anything about the culture of the schools, from putting more money into the schools. It takes time to see the impact of these policies, and to think that that's going to have an immediate effect, right, as a drop of the hat on violence, crime, anything else, is just ridiculous. It just doesn't make sense. Some of you guys are living in a fantasy world. I just tweeted this. Some of y'all are in a straight up fantasy world, and I'm going to talk about this tonight because I want people to wake up and stop getting swept up in just straight out foolishness that makes no sense. And you are literally looking at a person that wants to be so detached from the freaking police, don't really want anything to do with it unless, it's just flat out emergency, right? But that doesn't make me devoid of just common sense, just basic common sense. So I tweeted this the other day. I said, I go outside and the sun is shining, beautiful skies, people tending to their lawns, riding bikes, jogging, heading to work, enjoying the weather. You get on Twitter and the world is ending. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article. Minneapolis City Council approves measure to abolish police force. The Minneapolis City Council on Friday unanimously approved a measure to abolish the city's police department, a radical proposal amid nationwide efforts by activists to defund local law enforcement agencies. The 12-0 vote will not automatically dismantle the department, but is a first step in a long legislative process that will ultimately need popular support by city residents in a November election. The proposal gained popularity among city council members amid widespread protests and riots in the city following the killing of George Floyd by a city police officer last month. Officer Derek Chauvin kneeled on Floyd's neck until Floyd lost consciousness and ultimately died, which was captured on video. Floyd's killing touched off nationwide protests against police brutality and sparked efforts to defund or abolish police forces in cities across the country. The vote to abolish the police force Friday will require amending the city's charter. A draft amendment that was posted online suggests replacing the force with a Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention. The suggested department would consist of peace officers and ensure public safety through a holistic, public health-oriented approach. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. A tear almost came to my eye, right? Let me read it again. The suggested department would consist of peace officers and ensure public safety through a holistic, public health-oriented approach. Beautiful. makes me feel all warm and tingly inside. It's very cute. Makes me think about unicorns and rainbows. However, social media is allowing us to be so disconnected and so swept up into other people's narratives that y'all want to completely ignore human nature, crime, and violence. I don't. Okay. I was blessed to grow up in a fairly decent neighborhood, right? However, I've met a lot of people. I want y'all to know, because some of y'all are living in a fantasy world. It's this idea that everybody is just good. Everybody just needs this one certain opportunity. People aren't evil. Y'all are straight up living in a fantasy world. People can't understand when I tell them. I've literally seen people that have come from straight and narrow families, neighborhoods. Parents put them into some of the better schools. Family on the straight and narrow, and you'll have this one person in the family, for whatever reason, constantly is in crime. I want y'all to know, you have people that don't care about killing you or whoever. I feel like some people are so privileged. Y'all are so lost in your own world, or maybe you're living through other people's experiences, right? Where y'all don't think, we think that the policing is the only problem. And it's not. Criminals can actually be police or non-police. As a person that has literally, I put myself in a position to work with young boys. Particularly, I picked this age for a reason. 3rd to 4th grade young boys, to work on their reading levels. That was near and dear to my heart, because those were the ages that y'all remember the statistic that came out a while ago about how they were setting up prisons based on the freaking reading scores. So yes, there is absolutely an education problem. I so much believe that I just don't get on Twitter and hashtag about it. I put myself in a position to say, these little black boys around me, I want to make sure that they are in a position to not only get the best education, make sure they can read, but have them get over this hump. So I don't just Twitter finger about this. Yes, I want people to be able to defund the police. I do. So much so that I want people to come on this journey with me to get trained, get armed, learn some freaking first aid, learn how to be your own first responder. So we are not putting the freaking cart before the horse. These are things that make sense. Putting people in these positions, putting ourselves in these positions because we are the leaders. It's nothing that LeBron, Colin Kaepernick, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Amanda Seales has to tell me on TV when I can see it firsthand. Beyonce is way much safer than me. Beyonce has a freaking security detail. I have to depend on myself. Beyonce particularly hasn't called to abolish the police, but you have a lot of these blue chicks, you have a lot of these politicians that are going to run y'all right into a hole. They don't live there. They don't deal with the same things that you deal with. We're not going to be so blind that we are going to literally walk ourselves into a hole and we're going to ignore crime. You cannot blind yourself with anger that you're such in a frenzy that you just say and do and are willing to take whatever. It makes no sense. Want to make me believe you're serious? Commit to a cause of putting people in place to help you defund the police. You don't just do that by saying, hey, take that money and move this here. You're going to have the same things happening. I am not so blinded with anger that I'm going to sit here and be naive. Do y'all know some of the most people who call the freaking police? Do we really want to have this conversation tonight? Y'all can act like it's not happening because maybe you haven't lived here, maybe you haven't worked here, maybe you haven't worked or lived around these people, but it's in the freaking inner cities. They're calling the police. And now people that freaking live in the suburbs, you're living through people on Twitter, you want to call for abolishing the police. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? Go to the hood and see if they having conversations about abolishing the police. And I'm being real with y'all. I'm being real. It's time to have a conversation that the things that people that are talking about on Twitter are not reflective of real life. They're not. I say this as somebody that has worked there. I say this as somebody that has worked with so many freaking single moms in the inner cities. Do y'all think these are the people calling for the police to be abolished? Really? 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 The people that are most likely having these conversations are these kids on college campuses and these blue chicks that ain't got a worry in the world. It is not real life. What I'm not going to do, I'm not going to sit here and pretend for people's feelings. I'm not going to pretend for some type of Twitter camaraderie. I'm not going to do it when I live in a real life where people have been gunned down walking outside of their businesses and their churches. So until we are ready to have a balanced, nuanced conversation, this just proves to me that people are on whatever narrative the media is pushing at the time. The same people that were just a couple of months ago crying about police shootings, crying about school shootings. You don't want to arm the teachers, which I have my own opinion on it as well, right? But you don't want to arm the teachers. You were just complaining about school shootings and that we need to protect kids. But now you even have them removing police officers from the schools. Like, pick a narrative and stick to it. That's all I'm asking. Pick a narrative and be reflective of real life and just make it make sense so people can actually follow what y'all are trying to say, because right now I cannot keep up. I can't keep up. It's very, very, very confusing. It's very confusing. Anybody that is telling you let's defund or abolish the police and is not saying let's arm these law-abiding citizens in these inner cities. Let's help them learn first aid. Let's help them learn how to protect themselves. If they aren't having both of these conversations and they're talking about abolishing or defunding the police, they are full of it. They are full of it. Full of it. People are this little Chaz community. Where is it? Somewhere in California, I think, right? These people have taken over like a couple of blocks. It seems like every day that I get on Twitter now, it sounds like somebody's having a shooting in Chaz. These are the people that pushed the police out. Did it stop the crime? Seattle, thank you. Pick a struggle, be consistent, pick one narrative so common sense people can actually follow you. But right now, nobody's making sense and they're just following whatever media wave is going at the time. Y'all were just saying schools weren't protected. Now you want to move police officers from schools. I think there are ways to have these discussions, but people are making them so freaking polarizing. People are making them so freaking sickening that it is hurting whatever y'all are trying to do. And honestly, right now, I don't really know. I don't really know. I can't keep up. It's not making sense. How can you talk about abolishing the police, defunding the police, and you don't even have the means to protect yourself? Some of the people saying this know how long the police even take to show up to some of these communities in the first place. Y'all should be talking to these people about being in a position to protect themselves. I guess having balance and nuance, actually looking at statistics in real life doesn't count for anything. You have to be super polarizing on one side or the other. How about, I absolutely want to work our way to defunding the police. I would love to see that. But I'm not going to put these, particularly these women, in these inner cities that I know for a fact, I am smart enough to know are not in a position to protect themselves. They are not. Do not sit here and lie. You know, another reason why I know this, because not only is the media and some of y'all talking points so freaking conflicting, and this also shows y'all another example of how the media is not on your side. They're using you for a narrative. They said, you know what, we're going to let them go ahead and have a little defund the police talk. We're going to let them go ahead and have their little abolish the police talk. We're going to write articles about it. We'll let the algorithm bump them up on Twitter. It wasn't even 2 weeks in, and I see tons of videos of black women getting abused and everything else. Stories coming out like no other. Just out of nowhere. And I'm the only one that noticed that. What happened to those stories now? Have you noticed? Just out of nowhere, this was just conveniently happened to be right after the abolish and defund the police talk. Then you have this spike of all these videos coming out, black women being abused, berated, all these other things. They pop that in your psyche and bloop. It's destabilization. It's literally destabilization. If you think that the media actually is backing y'all or behind the idea of abolishing the police or defunding the police, you are wrong. You are wrong. However, they make a lot of money off the clicks and views of people saying these folks crazy. Let me go see. Let me see what these people are talking about. The algorithm is no joke, y'all. They pull stuff, put stuff, push stuff in and out of your psyche so much. I was honestly thinking today, I was like, wow, the media is making the case for me about people arming themselves. They're doing it on their own. Everything they're covering, the way they're covering it, they are making people run to these freaking gun stores. I went to the gun store, got a new gun like a week ago. Store was packed. I'm like, they're making a case for me. This conversation about gun ownership will never be the same again. This is me being happy, optimistic. But then I said, shoot, the media is so good at their propaganda. All they got to do, make all this stuff disappear for a couple of months and then start highlighting some school shootings or these shootings back to back. Y'all gonna do a 180 again. Like, I want to be optimistic and feel like this is gonna change the conversation going forward. But I just never know. I can never keep up. Shaw the 4th W said Thomas Sowell released a new book today on his 90th birthday, Charter Schools and Their Enemies, Defund the Schools. Thank you so much. That's a whole different conversation. When I tell y'all every single principle that my ancestors lived by immediately, like what made them or allowed them to even bounce back as much as they possibly could concerning the circumstances at hand after slavery. When I say from arming myself to educating my own future children, I want to learn a garden. I'm going to be taking first aid classes soon. Like, it's no joke. This has really opened my eyes to the scale of freedom. People will have you believe that oh, America is so free. It's the freest nation, right? And that may very well be true. But when you actually look at the principles of what our ancestors, you can even say the people who wrote the Constitution, whatever, the things that they actually stood for, wanted to see, compared to now you telling me people can fine me $300, $500, send me to jail 6 months for not wearing a mask. It really hit me the other day. I was like, you really got people, real lives, sitting in jail for doing drugs. Like, not even necessarily the actual crime, a violent crime being committed with it. Just the act of having a drug in their possession. The government said, instead of you, grown person, doing what you want, we'd rather stick you in a freaking box for months and years. That is mind blowing to me. I had never, I've thought about it, and I've talked about decriminalizing marijuana and things like this. But when you really think about, you got people sitting in a box, the government telling them you cannot even leave here. That is wild. Like, some of the things that we have accepted that you can be fined for, that you can be jailed for, it is mind blowing to me. Mind blowing. So don't ever think for any freaking second, I don't think that there is a lot of tyranny going on. Florida just recently, I heard, put another 100 laws on the books. Why so many laws? Why? If they are not adding to the quality of people's lives, why so many? I really don't understand that. I'm not seeing in real time where this is practical and makes sense. So yes, defund a lot of this BS. However, let's not be naive to the fact that we need to be in position to take up this slack. That just makes sense to me. That literally just makes sense to me. It isn't tyranny. It's what taxpayers vote for. That's really the conclusion you came to. We literally have so many books, so many laws on the books that they combat other laws. They freaking combat the Constitution. How is that not tyranny? You have small businesses that are being muddled out right now due to something we can't even control. You telling me people signed up for that? To not even have a choice right now? You have mayors and governors saying that I don't even want you allowing people to come into your establishment if they aren't wearing a mask. I can't, because now you're basically saying, right? It's what taxpayers vote for. You're basically saying that everything we get, we're just due for, right? Some of these things I understand, but y'all, it is so oftentimes they do so much stuff under the freaking table. It's not really talked about. Like, y'all cannot. It's like saying we signed up for every war we've been into. We've signed up for all the freaking surveillance. Some of this stuff we don't even know about. We don't even consent to. I recently talked about, first First of all, even Bill Gates, having as much say that he even has right now, but we find out that he's connected to studies with people spraying stuff in our air. Who signed up for that? Who voted for that? There is a constant government overreach going on. And I can't sit here and pretend that people are just begging for a lot of this. It's not. Even what we see happening right now, people are asking for very specific things. And you have a media that's running off with a narrative and skewing what people are actually saying. I don't think anybody in 2019 thought they were voting to abolish the police. It's just, I mean, I mean, and then do we really have to talk about these politicians that say they're going to do one thing and get in here and do something different? As a matter of fact, if you can name a politician that's actually expanding liberty, actually expanding freedom, that means more privacy, more freedom of speech, more 2A. Drop their names. Expanding. I don't mean somebody putting another 100 laws on the book saying, hey, trust us, we'll protect you. I'm the better guy. Expanding the freaking liberties that are actually important to the quality of life. Not all this other BS they putting on the books. Anyway, so let's move on and talk about Bunny and Clyde here. Make sure y'all drop the politicians in the chat. Be honest, please. Drop them in the chat so I can go look at what they're doing. And I will be sure to highlight these people and talk about these people. I will be sure to do that. When I see politicians coming forward or doing something that I think is great or sounding an alarm, like you recently had Justin Amash. I don't know, I be calling him Amish. Listen, Justin Amash pushing to end qualified immunity, that is something I support. You may not. You have to see where you're at with it. That is something I can fully get behind. I highlighted that. When they were doing all these BS stimulus package, lockdown, quarantine packages, and nobody wanted to show up to do a vote. And y'all know we're gonna look at these things 5 to 10 years. We're going to be looking at these things differently and more objective. A lot of people, some of us already see the play, okay? But for all the blue checks that are going to get ready to write their think pieces in 5 to 10 years to talk about, oh, the lockdowns were racist, Black people were brutalized, Black people had more fines from being not wearing masks. And I told y'all in the first place, a lot of it was BS. Some of us will be stamped in time with our opinions on it. However, in 5 to 10 years, when we see the think pieces, oh, some of these were the wrong decisions. Oh, look at all the people that signed these bills. And then you're going to have some people coming forward. Well, I had to sign the bill because, well, if I did it, then this one little piece in the bill wouldn't have went through. And I had to stand for that one little piece. So I talked about Thomas Massey when he said, no, if essential workers can get to work, y'all get y'all butts to work too. Come get a recorded vote. They say Tim Scott and Ron Paul. Helena said Dan Forrest. Dan Forrest from North Carolina. All right, y'all. So let's talk about Bonnie and Clyde. Karen and what they call them? Karen and Kenyon. McCloskey. So I'm sure y'all have already saw this. Right? Karen and Ken McCloskey have gone viral. This is this couple, Mark and Patricia, who pointed firearms at protesters in St. Louis. The shocking incident, this is according to The Sun, the shocking incident happened in Portland Place, a private street in Missouri City. They are a white couple who live in an affluent neighborhood of St. Louis. The two are personal injury lawyers. Mark McCloskey, 63, told a TV station that he and his wife are facing an angry mob on their private street and fear for their lives Sunday night. The pair pulled out a gun and loaded a barrel gun to intimidate protesters after seeing that they were armed in the crowd. The couple confronted a group of about 500 protesters after they broke down a gate in the neighborhood, according to NBC News. In a video posted on Twitter, the man can be seen pointing a rifle at protesters while the woman holds a gun and speaks with the passing crowd. So let's look at this video here. So y'all can pretty much see what's happening there. Now I can see why, based on this story and how this is being handled, and that a lot of people's take on this, I can see why people that don't like guns, don't know anything about firearms, I could see why they would hate gun people. I could totally understand it. As somebody who fully supports people protecting their property, right? Protecting their person, protecting their home, protecting their family. You have people. There was you have people pointing guns at people walking by their home. Not only that, you have people, a lady here that has her finger on the trigger And you have a couple that I cringed so many times because they swiped each other so many freaking times. And somehow people can't say that or say that it's wrong. I didn't see in any video where anybody threatened them, where anybody actually walked on their property. I even understand that, yes, absolutely, this is private property. And in the case of private property, having your firearm, having it holstered, yes, that is okay. But you just imagine, some of y'all don't think. Y'all are so used to being so combative that you don't even think of ways to show, teach, or inspire people what the actual freaking 2A is supposed to be about. The kids of Harambe say they broke their gate. I watched the video, didn't see anybody breaking a gate, saw people walking through an open gate. You have some people who are so used to being combative, not even knowing how to communicate, that we've literally made it where you can just point your freaking firearm at people. Is this really, if I don't know anything about firearms, I don't like guns, and this is the first thing that I see, I don't blame people. I do not freaking blame them. I literally just came from a training, knowing, and I understand that every city and state is going to be different, and I'm going to talk about this as well because I want to talk about the legal side and some of the things they may or may not be looking at. I literally just came from a training so detailed when I want to know every single moment, every single step, where you should even pull a firearm. You should even what's called pre-positioning. Pre-positioning is your hand on a weapon ready to draw. Jupiter Black said they did break the gate and the protesters were just in the wrong as the people pointing the guns. I absolutely freaking agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. You are on private property. You shouldn't be on private property. However, when we are literally talking about pointing guns, this lady has her finger on a trigger. Now, what if she would have accidentally shot somebody? She didn't. But if she would have accidentally shot somebody, now you're looking at a whole different conversation that people like me, now I have to have, because as a gun owner, as a 2A advocate, as somebody that's trying to bring other people on board, now I have to have this conversation about why this okay. Why are y'all making excuses for irresponsible gun ownership that allows the blue checks to expand the conversations of why you shouldn't be allowed to have them all together? Y'all literally throw your freaking selves to the wolves by excusing BS. You do it. You are complicit. Instead of saying, hey, we want freaking responsible gun owners. We want that to be the highlight. Yes, we absolutely want people to protect their property. Have your gun, have it on your strap, have your holster, whatever, right? But to point your gun at people that have not actually threatened you, walked on your actual property. I haven't seen any videos of people pointing a gun at him. Now you're pointing a gun at me and I feel threatened. Y'all make the conversation so easy to expand. Now you're going to have, people are always talking about the news. How are you going to talk about fake news and you literally give them all the bait in the world? I promise y'all, this conversation would not be the same. This conversation would not be the same if they were having their guns, having your muzzle pointed down. Totally different conversation. I cannot, as somebody that actually has to change people's minds, I know y'all don't care. Somebody came in the chat, Harambe, just told me, you're voting for this. When you have politicians that come in and say, hey, we can keep you safe, these are the people that you have to worry about. People are literally throwing them bait and then want to call it fake news instead of having these conversations that say, hey, this is not the responsible thing to do. Like, why do people want to ignore the fact that optics is important and little small things can change the trajectory of these conversations? Why can people not admit that? Why can people not admit that? Snowman said, I agree, but why did protesters walk on their property? I cannot answer that. I don't know. From the videos I saw, protesters were walking on streets. Protesters were walking on sidewalks. If they're on private property, yes, they're absolutely wrong. But if there is not an imminent threat and you are pointing a gun at this person, not only pointing a gun at this person, a gun that you are actively mishandling with your finger on the trigger. When your finger's on the trigger, you are ready to shoot. Those are the principles that you learn the first time you touch a gun. Do not aim this at anything you are not ready to kill right now. Y'all are steadily trying to take up for these people, and yet they come and basically retract with their statements. Oh, we support the protesters. Is that because you don't want the backlash now? Jupiter Black, he should have his rifle at the low ready. Y'all make it so easy, man. Y'all make it so easy. I don't understand how people can steadily call the news fake, steadily say how the news is creating and sparking flames, and then feed right into it. That makes no sense to me. Y'all give them all the freaking bait instead of saying, hey, we completely stand behind people protecting themselves. However, this is not the standard y'all want to create. I promise you, because things are about to get ugly. And this is not the standard you want to create. That people are just walking around pointing guns to people walking down the street with their finger on the trigger. This is freaking basic gun safety 101. So they come back with a statement. St. Louis lawyers Mark McCloskey and Patricia McCloskey wish to set the record straight about the protests on one hand and the actions of a few individuals who chose to exploit the otherwise peaceful protests to place Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey in fear of imminent harm. Both Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey are lawyers whose professional careers have punctuated by their long-standing commitment to protecting the civil rights of clients victimized at the hands of law enforcement. This commitment of time and resources to this cause continues today in the Isaiah Foreman case. The peaceful protesters were not the subject of scorn or disdain by the McCloskies. To the contrary, they were expecting and supportive of the message of the protesters. The action of violence, destruction of property, and acts of threatening aggression by a few individuals commingling with the peaceful protesters gave rise to trepidation and fear of imminent and grave. Both Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey acted lawfully on their property, which sits on a private gated lane in the city of St. Louis. Their actions were born solely of fear and apprehension, the genesis of which was not race-related. In fact, the agitators responsible for the trepidation were white. The Black Lives Matter movement is here to stay. It is the right message, and it is about time. So anyway, they support Black Lives Matter according to this message. Either that or they are now scared of the repercussions, right? Now you have to write this type of statement. At this point, you have to write this type of statement because you're literally pointing a gun at people from no video I have seen that were an actual imminent and grave threat. I have not seen the video. If I see the video, I will change my position. I have not seen that video, okay? There's plenty of information out to suggest that these protesters were walking, I think, to like the governor's house or something like this. Now, where it gets muddy and where people need to understand, and where I talk about this a lot, is that about people understanding the actual law and understanding what you're doing, not just going with the flow. You have allegedly some peaceful protesters, even by their own statement, mixed in with these protesters. Now you're just following the crowd. You don't even realize you're on private property where they absolutely have the right to tell you to get off their property, right? They have the right to have their firearms, okay? Missouri has the castle doctrine where you can literally defend your property. These are things protesters need to know. This is what I say when I mean some people are being swept away on other people's agendas. You're going to walk yourself right into a hole. Now you're going to follow these other protesters on these people's property where this lady has this gun, could have accidentally discharged, could have killed somebody. You have the castle doctrine where they could protect their property. However, the point that a lot of you guys are missing is that they would have to actually prove that this was in self-defense of being in actual imminent danger. So that's the thing. I think you have offices there that are looking more into this. I don't particularly see it going anywhere just because of them being on private property, right? And because of the castle doctrine in Missouri. However, I would be remiss to not have these conversations as people trying to change people's minds, getting them on board to be armed. I would be remiss to sit up here and act like there was no fault on their part as well, pointing guns at people. You got a lot of people that need to just admit, right? And it's mostly fake. It's mostly fake, and it's mostly internet stuff. But some of y'all are propping up this whatever goes. Y'all are living vicariously through these other people, and you're not even in these situations. The kiss of Harambe. You are blue pill. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I thank you for noticing. I'm so blue pill that I am trying to tell y'all how to get people on board to defend and become a part of the 2A movement. See y'all cry. See, let me just break it down. A lot of y'all get online, your Twitter fingers, right? I'm blue pilled. Your Twitter fingers. Y'all get on social media and y'all cry about these politicians and you don't even know how to change or inspire people to get these things done. You don't know how. That's why you're watching me right now, but I'm blue pilled. I cannot have a conversation about responsible gun ownership because I'm blue pilled. But I bet right now in my inbox, in my emails, I have more people telling me how I've opened their eyes to become armed than you. And if that's blue pill, that's a hell of a blue pill. And if that's what you see as blue pill, I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. Because if you know anything about me, I've never cared about being on anybody's team. I do not care. We're principled over here. And so, yes, I am going to always stand for responsible gun ownership, and we're going to talk about these things. I can come over here and say these protesters are wrong for walking on private property. However, if you want to expand these conversations, because we're not seeing anything but more and more laws on the books, I've already talked about this. If you want to expand on these conversations, you're going to have to do it from a common sense, because right now you are losing. You, Harambe, y'all are losing to the media. That's why you need people like me. You need blue pill people like me, because you are losing. Every single thing you say and do, the media runs off with. They take everything that you stand for. Everything you believe in, they run with it, and y'all don't do anything but get on Twitter and cry about it. You say it's fake news, yet you feed them easy freaking bait like this. Feed them easy bait. I'm talking about it's easy. This is easy work. Y'all don't even try. You don't even try. It's actually sad. It's actually kind of sad. Some of these are such easy, common sense conversations. And why aren't these conversations happening from a balanced, nuanced, objective perspective? Your voices are being drowned out. You need this blue pill. Ooh, child. Crafty Ward said, I just wish the protesters would denounce the radicals, because when you mingle the radicals on the left and right, it's going to be used for war. Only the extremists are the culprits. And this is what I am trying to explain to them. This is my point. You don't even know. You are giving people bait to dismantle everything you say you stand for. And y'all make it so easy. Easy. Even a freaking Black Lives Matter, I think, whether y'all believe it or not, I think it's slowly happening. People are waking up to the fact that they're being used for Black Lives Matter agenda. if we can get the corporations out the freaking way and try to have some of these conversations in this space, even coming from a little old blue pill like me, then we can talk about things that actually matter, which are policy, not hashtags, not voice characters, not all these other conversations. You cannot tell me the news is fake and then turn around and feed right into it. That makes no sense to me. I know all of us over here have to be smarter than this at this point. Have to be. Do you know how you beat the news? By being truthful. By being truthful. A lot more people have common sense than y'all think. A lot of people just haven't had the chance to have these actual conversations from a common sense perspective. People are only being given two extremes. People are only being given two radical spectrums. And it is being used by the media. You are losing if you are on either radical end of that spectrum. Y'all are only being used for infighting, and all the common sense stuff gets looked over with, because now people like me and Crafty, we got to watch the media fight over y'all instead of the actual things that need to be focused on in real time. We can't even get to the bottom of the issues right now because we're talking about freaking voice characters and statues and Aunt Jemima. How can the same people that been on a tirade for almost 4 years now, calling the media fake, turn around and fall into the same trap? At this point, I'm flabbergasted. I'm shocked. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I am blown away that some of y'all have not even figured out what it is going to take. And the first thing is being truthful. How you gonna fight the freaking echo chamber getting swept up into the same fighting? Like, that makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. Kim said, I wouldn't even have replied to that foolery. Man, sometimes I just gotta remind people. You just got to remind people. Like, and let them know. Some of these discussions, that we're having now is because y'all have let the media get swept away with these narratives and turning you into radicals. You look like a freaking radical. You look like an extremist. And I'm not even talking about sides. I'm talking about in general. Some of y'all look crazy because you're so committed to going against whatever you think that you sound ridiculous to common sense real people. And a lot of people cannot get behind it. This really New Day. This is really a conversation that people really not ready for. It's really a conversation that people really not ready for. Both parties are puppets of NWO. People gonna say earlier, y'all are voting your way into this, right? So I don't know for sure, but I'm going to assume that this is one of these people that's like, oh, if you weren't voting Democrat, you wouldn't be getting this. You wouldn't be seeing this. So they're suggesting, right? The same freaking Republicans that are expanding surveillance right now, helping limit our privacy, that are just as complicit as what is happening to our small businesses right now in these freaking stimulus packages, having qualified immunity, asset forfeiture, a lot of things that I could go into talking about. So if you are focusing on party over actual principles, policies, and what is going on paper, some of y'all faves are just as complicit. They're just as complicit. Just as complicit. Try it on somebody that's not paying attention and doesn't know any better. These people are signing the same bills, and then they'll come back 5 to 10 years later and say, oh, well, I didn't really have a choice because this one thing was in there. I really didn't have a choice. I had to sign it because it's one little part. We're talking about thousand page bills that these people barely read. They have 3 days to look over some of these things. Your people are just as complicit. I just asked people to tell me politicians that have expanded freedom. Expanded. Get some of these stupid laws off the books. Who's a freaking actual constitutionalist, meaning stand for freedom of speech, stands for gun rights, stands for freedom in your person, freedom from search and seizure? Name these people. Y'all gave me 3 people. Y'all named 3 people. What is that telling you? There's a lot of cleaning up that needs to happen. If that is not happening, people are going to have to start moving, which should already be happening, but even more so on an individual level. I already told y'all in a few years I'm going off the grid. So that's just me. But you know. So anyway. But these are very trying times. I think it's 2020. A lot is going to be revealed and is being revealed this year. And it's odd times, man. Odd times. Everybody is picking their team. Nobody wants to be truthful. Nobody wants to be objective. That's why I personally believe that is one of the biggest reasons these politicians are able to get away with all the BS that they do. All the BS that they do. Because as long as your guy did it, even if you know it's wrong, it's something you don't agree with, as long as your guy did it, you're willing to turn a blind eye to it, which makes absolutely no sense to me. And I think that's why they're able to get away with so much that they do. So much that they do. Edward said 2020, everything is coming into focus. It's so many people's eyes going to be open to so much. And I don't want people to be swept away in narratives and agendas that are not theirs. And you cannot say, oh, the media lies, oh, the media is fake, oh, the media is just trying to be polarizing, oh, the media is just trying to do this and that, and you literally get swept up in the same thing. You literally get swept up in the same thing. Y'all are feeding the algorithm. You are feeding the algorithm. New Day said going off the grid in a couple of years might be too late. You may be right. The way everything is looking right now. Man. If I could convince most people that a lot of the things we all want are so common sense and so common, if you actually know how to explain them, y'all wouldn't see a lot of the stuff you see happening right now. You would not. I don't know how to put that in a better, more fluid way to state that. But I honestly think a lot of people want the same thing. A lot of y'all are missing the principle of government overreach. A lot of people are mad because of government overreach. And I'm not going to turn a blind eye to that to fit somebody's narrative or let that narrative get hijacked. But a lot of what we're seeing is years of, when you boil it down, I don't care what policy, what era you want to talk about. When you boil this down, a lot of what people feeling is a fault with government overreach. This is why you see so many people protesting right now. I don't care whether it's protesting about police brutality or whether it's protesting about small businesses literally being knocked out because they're being forced to close down because they're not essential enough. And people are missing that whole point to go focus on stuff that doesn't even really matter in the big scheme of things. Helena said, I need people to train themselves to stop reacting emotionally. It's exhausting. It's very exhausting. It's extremely exhausting. But anyway, y'all, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. To people that weren't here at the beginning, I did let everybody know that I have been invited to speak at the Libertarian National Convention. I will be speaking on a panel, which, how everything is looking right now, is still scheduled to go on next weekend in Orlando, Florida. But I have been invited to speak on that panel about 2A. And 2A gun rights, how this particularly affects like the Black community and things like this. And so I'm super excited about this opportunity. I am continuing to expand my platform, and also because I am doing so and trying to get other people on board to this messaging, it is very important that I talk about common sense principles and responsible gun ownership. That just makes sense. That makes sense. And it would be a travesty for me to do anything less than that. But anyway, I'm super excited about that opportunity. Hopefully, I will be getting some content to share with you guys. I don't know. Somebody asked me at the beginning if they will be live streaming it. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll be letting you guys know about that as well. Also, again, I said starting next week, my show Tuesday Night Lives are going to go back to 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. I think that's Eastern. And also, I'm going to be going back to my regularly 3 to more videos a week. So trying to get those subscribers up this year before 2020 is out. So make sure y'all are helping me share the videos, liking the videos and everything like that. Again, I want to thank my patrons, particularly my VIP patrons, Ray and Michael Ray. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for everybody who's hanging out tonight. And that's it. Y'all have a good night. Happy Tuesday. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.